Once again, my fiancée went drinking with her childhood sweetheart and stayed out all night. This time, I made up my mind to break up with her. Everyone sneered at the idea, assuming I'd be the doormat who caved in first, like I always had. They didn't think I meant it, until I had someone else by my side. That was when she finally came to her senses. With tears blurring her eyes, she grabbed my hand, begging me to take her back. "I'm sorry," she said, but earlier, when she'd stumbled and drunk, she'd been anything but apologetic. "How many times do I have to explain this?" Alice slurred, still reeking of alcohol. "Mark's just my best friend. We grew up like siblings. Now he's my investor too. What's wrong with us having a drink together? Can you stop being so paranoid all the time? If something was going to happen between us, it would have happened years ago. You wouldn't even be in the picture." I sat on the couch, my face stone, cold, having stayed up all night waiting for her. I'd lost count of how many times she'd come home at dawn. Or not at all. Just a drink. I pulled out my phone, opened a photo I'd saved, and tossed it in front of her. Mark had sent the picture to me in the middle of the night, then deleted it less than 30 seconds later. But I'd been quick enough to screenshot it. The image showed Alice curled up on a messy king-size bed, leaning against Mark. Their pose is intimate, along with the photo. He'd typed a taunting message. "If I wanted her, she'd be mine. So you two are just friends?" I said. "Friends who drink until they end up sharing a hotel bed?" Alice picked up the phone, and her face turned ashen. She knew Mark wasn't lying. This photo wasn't faked. She had checked into a hotel with him the night before. I fought back the sharp ache in my chest, my voice heavy with disappointment. "Are you still going to lie? Do you really expect me to believe nothing happened?" When she saw how disillusioned I was, Alice finally dropped her annoyed act. She sat next to me, took my hand, and softened her tone. I blacked out. Mark didn't know where I lived, so he took me to a hotel. He was worried about me, so he stayed to keep an eye on me. Nothing happened, I swear. Look, I still had all my clothes on. You wouldn't let me come see you when you were drunk. I cut her off, my patience gone. "But you went to a hotel with another man. Does that sound right to you?" Alice's pretty face hardened. "Again, at the end of the day, you just don't trust me. If you think I'm cheating on you, then there's no point in us getting married." As soon as the words left her mouth, she froze. Panic flashed across her face, and she bit her lip. "Ethan, that's not what I meant." "Fine," I said. Alice stared at me stunned. "What did you say?" I looked at her calmly. "Let's not get married after all." She was silent for 2 seconds. Then the familiar sneer pulled at her lips. "You're serious? You won't regret this." She didn't believe me. Not really. We'd fought and broken up so many times before that she thought this was just another tantrum. I repeated myself, clear and firm. "No wedding. We're done." This wasn't the first time she'd used calling off the wedding to manipulate me. Ever since her lifelong childhood friend Mark had returned to China 2 years ago to invest in her company, our already settled wedding date had been pushed back again and again. We'd fought endlessly over it, and breaking up had become a throwaway line. But this time, I meant it. Alice didn't get that. She scoffed. "Fine, break up, then what are you still doing here?" I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and rolled out a suitcase, one I'd packed the night before, as soon as I saw Mark's photo. Alice's face darkened instantly. I pulled the suitcase over to her, gazing at her haggard face, still pale from the hangover, and sighed, "You have a bad stomach. Drink less from now on." I divided the hangover soup packets and put them in the kitchen cabinet, and I bought enough of your usual supplements to last a while. Alice cut me off with a cold laugh. "If we're broken up, stop with this fake concern." She stormed to the entrance, wrenched the door open, and yelled, "I don't want to see you anymore. Get out, now." I took a deep breath, pulled the suitcase past her, and said, "Goodbye, Alice." The door slammed shut behind me, loud enough to show just how furious she was. At the community gate, I ran into Mark. No doubt he'd been the one to drop Alice off. He was sitting in a Maybach. When he saw me with the suitcase, he got out and blocked my way, his peach-shaped eyes glinting with mockery. Well, if it isn't Ethan?" Finally kicked out by Alice. I gave him a cold glance and tried to walk past, but he stepped in front of me again. "You should have had some self-awareness earlier. A guy like you, leeching off Alice, you never deserved her." I stopped and sneered back. "You're right. I didn't deserve her. But you two, you're perfect for each other. Wish you a lifetime of happiness." I shoved him aside, hailed a taxi, and got in through the rearview mirror. I saw Mark spit in the direction I'd gone, then rush into the community. I laughed bitterly to myself. What a devoted childhood sweetheart he was. He'd probably been waiting there the whole time, hoping Alice and I would fight, so he could sweep in as the understanding older brother. Now they get to be together, and I'd be the petty, unreasonable ex-fiancé. But once, Alice had never looked at me with that kind of impatience. We'd met in college. In the drama club, she played the beloved princess. I'd played the big tree she leaned on. If she hadn't tripped and fallen from the stage, and if I hadn't caught her, breaking my arm in the process, someone as ordinary as me would have never crossed paths with a wealthy young lady like her. While I was in the hospital recovering, she visited me often slowly. We'd fallen in love back then. She was a coquettish girl with a little of that spoiled rich kid stubbornness. It was hard to reconcile that version of her with the ruthless, unfeeling CEO she'd become. When had she changed? Probably in our senior year. Her father, George, had suddenly brought home a bastard son, Oliver. For the first time, Alice, who'd always had everything her way, felt defeated. She realized that just because she was a daughter, her father didn't see her as a worthy heir. That sense of crisis terrified her. She didn't want to share her father's love or the Liu family's fortune with anyone, but at parties, Oliver stood proudly beside George, introduced to all his business partners, while Alice was shunted off to chat with the other women about trivial gossip. That night, she'd shown up at my dorm in a high-end dress, thrown herself into my arms like a drowning person clinging to a life buoy. Her hot tears soaked through my shirt, searing my heart. "I'll never let him take everything from me," she sobbed. "I'll make Dad see. I'm a girl, but I can build something too." After that, Alice dropped her carefree, indulgent ways and threw herself into starting a business. But entrepreneurship was hard, especially since she'd studied music. She soon realized that her resume, which included playing the cello at Vienna's Golden Hall, didn't help her company succeed. George scolded her for wasting time and set her up on blind dates with wealthy bachelors, planning to marry her off. A business alliance was the last thing Alice wanted. She begged and fought for one final chance to make her company work. She made a bet with George. If this failed, she'd give up and do as he said. So for her, starting that company wasn't just about proving herself, it was about fighting for freedom. Freedom to be with me. I couldn't deny that she'd loved me deeply back then. To secure our future, she'd fought tooth and nail against her father's pressure, and I'd thrown myself into her business without hesitation. Sometimes I wondered how we'd ended up like this. We'd once shared the same goal, working to build a stable future for each other. But after 7 years together, our relationship had fallen apart. When Mark first came back, he'd sent me vague, provocative texts. At first, I was angry and jealous. But after arguing with Alice a few times, watching her brush it off, complaining that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, I'd felt like I'd been doused in cold water. It wasn't Mark's presence that bothered me, it was Alice's indifference. It made me realize I could barely feel her love anymore. And her apathy hadn't started with Mark, it had always been there. He just pulled back the final curtain on our failing relationship. Sitting in the taxi, watching the street scenes blur by, I finally felt at peace. They say every relationship hits the 7-year itch. After years of routine and monotony, every bond enters a phase of weariness. Maybe Alice and I had just run out of fate. The day I left Alice, I handed in my resignation. It was just a formality at Rushui Tech, the company Alice and I had built from the ground up. I'd already been sidelined long ago. As soon as Li Fei, the HR director, received my resignation in the system, he called me, "Mr. Ethan, did you talk to Miss Alice about this?" His voice was full of surprise, like he thought I was joking. I wasn't surprised. Li Fei had been Alice's college classmate, and he'd always seen me as a scheming gold digger trying to climb the social ladder. I'd first found out about his feelings 3 years after the company was founded. That year, we'd landed a big investment, and Alice, thrilled, had thrown a lavish year-end party. I'd taken a lot of drinks for Li Fei, then hidden in the lounge to rest. Alice had come in to touch up her makeup, followed by Li Fei. Neither noticed me huddled on the inner couch, half asleep. Until I heard them mention my name. "Miss Alice, you need to watch Mr. Ethan," Li Fei had said. "Now the people under him listen to him more than they listen to you." Alice had brushed it off. "Ethan's a co-founder too. Isn't it good that the team respects him?" But Li Fei had persisted. "He's a co-founder, yes, but you're the real boss of this company." Alice had laughed, telling him not to overthink it. Everyone else might betray me, but not Ethan. I'd been touched then. Never in a million years would I have guessed that just 2 years later, my power in the company would be chipped away until I was left with nothing but a figurehead title. Li Fei's voice pulled me back to the present. Mr. Ethan, you're not joking, are you? You two are already engaged. I was looking forward to your wedding, Candy. I laughed coldly. Li Fei had mastered the art of playing both sides over the years. To my face, he'd always teased about waiting for the wedding. But behind my back, he'd repeatedly told Alice to keep me in line, even after Mark showed up. Li Fei had actively created chances for them to meet. Aren't you happy? I said. Now you don't have to hide when you play matchmaker for Alice and Mark. I hung up on Li Fei, and immediately Alice called. I declined. Then came a flurry of text messages. Ethan, are you really resigning? Cut the crap, stop acting out, or I'll take you seriously. If you quit on your own, you get no severance. You won't get a penny from the company. I smiled bitterly. After 7 years together, did she really think I was a gold digger? Simone she could control with money? Do whatever you want. I don't care. My reply silenced her. She never called or texted again. A few days later, I got my resignation approved and immediately joined Yunchuan Tech. After passing my probation, my department decided to celebrate my official hire in style, booking a high-end private restaurant. It was the same one I'd begged Alice to go to with me countless times. She'd always agreed, then stood me up. What made it even more coincidental was that I saw Alice there. She'd lost weight. Sitting in a private room with Li Fei and a few of her girlfriends, I recognized. Mark was the only man at the table. Alice, you really broke up with Ethan, one of the girls asked, and he left without taking anything. When I heard my name, I paused. Glancing through the half-open door, a shadow crossed Alice's face. Mark sighed from beside her. Alice and I are just friends, but Ethan was always paranoid. It stressed her out. Breaking up was for the best. Alice said nothing, just looked tired. Totally for the best, another girl agreed. Ethan's family is so ordinary. If he hadn't latched onto Alice to start Rushui Tech, Mr. George would have never even looked at him. He has no real skills. He's just been leeching off Alice these past 2 years. Such a kept man. Honestly, Alice wasted 7 years on him. She should have asked for compensation when they broke up. Please. Ethan finally hooked up with someone as rich as Alice. Do you think he'll let go that easily? A third girl scoffed. Alice just needs to ignore him for a month. He'll come crawling back like a puppy, begging for forgiveness. The room erupted in laughter, except for Alice and Li Fei. Li Fei stared off into space, lost in thought, while Alice drank one glass of wine after another. Mark watched her, looking concerned. I felt nothing, no anger, no sadness. I turned and walked away. My new colleagues were surprisingly warm. As an external hire in a senior position, I'd expected some pushback, but they welcomed me sincerely. Finally, our R&D director's here, Phil, the department head, who'd been filling in, sighed in relief. I was never cut out for this senior role. Phil's been terrified of meetings with the boss, one colleague joked. Ethan, you're the real deal. Calm even when everything's falling apart. We're counting on you. Our boss poached Ethan with a huge offer, another added. He was a tech genius at Rushui Tech. With him here, Yunchuan's gonna blow up. Yunchuan Tech was in the same industry as Rushui, but unlike Rushui, which had struggled every step of the way, Yunchuan had strong financial backing and was growing rapidly. I was flattered by their praise. The team atmosphere here was nothing like Rushui's. At Rushui, I'd been a co-founder and CTO, a fancy title, but Alice held most of the shares. She was the real decision maker from the start. We disagreed on the company's direction. I'd wanted to refine our products, taking things step by step, but Alice, under pressure from George, had been desperate to make quick money and secure more investments. She chased every trending product and we'd argued endlessly over it. But Rushui had built its foundation in smart warehouse logistics. Diverting time and money into a new industry would have destroyed everything we'd worked for. As head of R&D, I'd been the first to oppose it, but Li Fei, backed by HR, the executive office, and finance, had sided with Alice. The meeting had ended in a stalemate, and our fights had spilled into our personal lives. Once, she'd even slammed her fist on the table in her office, yelling at me in front of the team, not caring about my pride. Ethan, don't think you can defy me just because you control the R&D team, she'd screamed. I'm the one who put the money in. I'm the CEO. I could hire a dozen better CTOs than you if I wanted. The only reason you're in this position is because you're my boyfriend. Without me, you'd never be here. Public conflict between top executives was a death sentence for a company. To teach me a lesson. Alice had taken Li Fei's advice, using HR and finance to undermine me. One week, she'd pulled my team into useless training sessions. The next, she'd rejected my budget proposals, claiming it was cost-cutting. Many of my team members had quit. The atmosphere had turned toxic. New hires quickly figured out which side to take. They'd aligned with Alice. I'd even heard them whispering in the pantry or restroom. Let's be real. Ethan has no power here. His ideas are good, but the boss won't listen. He's such a useless co-founder. Working under him sucks. He can't even fight for us. It's all Alice's call. Whatever, we're just here to get paid. Who cares about company values? We do what the boss says. Ethan's too naive. How long does he think he can keep this up? They were right. My enthusiasm had faded fast under Alice's constant undermining. I'd even started doubting my own abilities, wondering if I really was unqualified. As I was sidelined more and more, I became a ghost in the company. Alice had pushed through her smart home project with no opposition. When funding ran out, Mark, fresh back from abroad, had stepped in as Roshui's biggest investor. To Alice, he'd been a savior, solving her most urgent problem. After that, she'd grown even more impatient with me. During that time, several headhunters had contacted me, all sent by Yunchuan Tech, but I'd still held on to hope for Alice, so I turned them down. I'd never expected Yunchuan to keep trying for 2 years. So the day I broke up with Alice, I'd accepted their offer without hesitation. Now, I knew it had been the right choice. I'm Mr. Ethan. We're counting on you. Phil raised his glass to me, one by one. My colleagues followed, toasting and urging me to drink. I'd had enough, so I begged off, slipping away to the restroom to splash water on my face. On my way out, I bumped into someone. Sorry, I said, about to walk past, until they called my name, Mr. Ethan. I turned. It was Li Fei. She was holding on to the corner of my sleeve when she saw me look. She let go quickly. I frowned, annoyed. My dislike for her was obvious, and her face turned red as she stammered. Ethan, long time no see. You're here for dinner too. Did you see Alice? I didn't want to waste time on her. I nodded vaguely and tried to leave, but she stepped in front of me. You saw her, didn't you? She said. Alice has Mark now. You two are over. I cut her off. Like you wanted, we broke up. Who she's with now is her business. No need to report to me. Li Fei's eyes lit up. Right, you're single now. So, was she here to mock me? But when she saw my impatience, her tone turned cautious. Ethan, since you and Alice are done, can we be together? I must have drunk too much. There was no other explanation. Li Fei, who'd always looked down on me, hated me, was confessing to me. When I didn't answer, she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint alcohol on her breath. So it wasn't me who was drunk, it was her. I stepped back, circling around her. You're drunk. I'll pretend you never said that. But Li Fei wouldn't let me go. She chased after me. I'm not drunk. I mean it. What do you think? Are you still hung up on Alice? She grabbed my arm. Let me tell you, she and Mark already slept together. Alice and Mark are childhood sweethearts from matching social backgrounds. They're perfect for each other. You were just a fling something she did when she was young and naive. Did you really think she'd marry you? Give up? The world's realistic. Ordinary people should stick to ordinary people. I stopped. Her words were absurd because I came from an ordinary family. I belonged with someone like her. I was about to argue until someone slipped their arm through mine. A soft fragrance filled my nose. Miss, your social status matching idea has some merit, the woman said. You're definitely ordinary, but Ethan is far from it. Sorry, but you're too late. I stared in surprise at the short-haired woman beside me. She wore a high-end tailored suit, her makeup flawless, her presence commanding. It was Bianca, Yunchuan Tech CEO. Shay held up a hand to stop me from speaking, then turned to Li Fei, who looked stunned. So, miss, what do you want with my fiancé? The word fiancé drained the color from Li Fei's face. Under Bianca's sharp gaze, her lips trembled. She said nothing, just covered her face and ran away. Miss Bianca, I said, amused. Now I'll never be able to clear my name. Li Fei is definitely going to tell Alice about this. Bianca let go of my arm, winking at me. What's wrong with that? You are my fiancé now. Becoming Bianca's fiancé had been an accident. I'd gone to Yunchuan for an interview only to find that the CEO was my high school classmate. What was supposed to be a professional interview had turned into a trip down memory lane. Back then, I'd been the top student in science. Bianca had been second. She'd always said she'd beat me, but never had, even by the college entrance exam. A decade later, I'd left Alice with nothing, while she'd become a successful young entrepreneur, hailed by business media as a new voice for women in business. When we'd reunited, I'd felt inferior after being undermined by Alice for so long. I'd started doubting my own skills. When I first saw Bianca, I'd even wondered if she was hiring me out of old classmate loyalty, but she'd shut that down immediately. Ethan, I'm a businessman. I don't put unqualified people in important positions. Do you think I'd have headhunters chase you for 2 years if I didn't believe in you? She'd lean forward. Serious. I've studied Ruoshui's products closely. Ruoshui failed at after-sales service and project maintenance. That's a management issue, not a R&D one. Your work is excellent. Here, you'll have the chance to shine. No one had affirmed me like that in years. I'd been touched. We'd been talking happily when Bianca's father, Yunchuan's major investor, had burst into the office, yelling about setting her up on a blind date. Bianca had rolled her eyes, grabbed my arm, and told her father, "This is my boyfriend." And just like that, I'd become Bianca's boyfriend, and soon after, her fiancé. Bianca and I laughed as we walked back to the private room. Her appearance had kicked the celebration up a notch. She was a charismatic leader, strict and focused at work, but warm and easygoing in private. Under her leadership, Yunchuan was a tight-knit team, busy but never tense. Everyone believed in her vision. Ruoshui had been the opposite, at least for the past 2 years. The departments had been fragmented like loose sand after dinner. Our group walked out of the restaurant right into Alice and Mark's crowd. And right in the middle of Mark's proposal, Mark was on one knee, holding a bouquet of bright red roses, gazing at Alice tenderly. "Alice, I came back for you. These 2 years, I've watched you fight alone to build your company. It broke my heart. Let me take care of you. Be my girlfriend." Alice's girlfriends cheered. "Say yes, say yes." Alice frowned, looking surprised, not happy. She glanced around, her eyes meeting mine for a second. Shock and hope flashed across her face, then pride. She stood straight, chin lifted, as if waiting for me to walk over. I looked away calmly, letting my colleagues guide me past them. "Ethan?" Alice yelled. Be beside oneself with rage. From behind me, when I didn't stop, she ran after me, grabbing my arm. "Where have you been these days? Why haven't you called? Do you know how hard it's been running the company and worrying about you?" I sighed and turned around. "I'm tired too, Alice." Did she really think my breaking up with her, moving out, and staying away for 2 months was just another tantrum? She still thought I'd never leave her. Sure enough, she softened. "Fine, you've had your little fit. It's over now. Come back home next month. I'll make time. We'll meet with both our parents and set the wedding date." I glanced at Mark, who'd stood up behind her, his face dark. Alice's girlfriend stared at us in shock. Li Fei, hidden in the crowd, watched with an unreadable expression. "We're broken up, Alice," I said. She rubbed her temples. Frustrated, "Stop being ridiculous. I have enough on my plate with the company. You know why I started this business, for our future. Can't you cut me some slack? I'm exhausted." I cut her off. "Mark's a good guy. You two are well matched in social status. Your dad likes him. With him, you won't have to work so hard." Alice frowned, studying my face. When she realized I wasn't bluffing. Not angry, just calm. She flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Ethan, I'll give you one last chance. Take that back otherwise." She glanced at Mark, then grit her teeth. "Otherwise, I'll really be with Mark. I wish you two a lifetime of happiness," I said quietly. Alice's face paled, but she held her ground, turning to Mark. "I'll be your girlfriend." Mark got what he wanted, but he didn't look happy. Anyone could see Alice was just trying to spite me, but he still loved her. He stepped forward, putting his arm around her shoulders, and forced a smile at me. "Ethan, thank you. I'll take good care of Alice. I hope you find happiness too." Alice leaned into Mark, glaring at me defiantly. "Mark's way better than you. Breaking up was the right choice. Without me, you're nothing." "Who said that?" Bianca stepped in front of me, her face cold. "You're the one who doesn't deserve Ethan's devotion all these years." Alice's confidence faltered when she saw Bianca. "Who are you?" Bianca smiled faintly, leaning into my side. "I'm Ethan's fiancée." Alice's eyes widened. Then she sneered. "So that's why you broke up with me. You already had someone else lined up. How dare you accuse me of being with Mark?" "Shut up," Bianca snapped. "You're the one who's always flirting with other men while you're in a relationship. You built your company on Ethan's R&D work, then tossed him aside. You made him doubt his own abilities, took away his shares, and turned him into a figurehead. Admit it, you're the one who fell out of love first." Alice's face turned ugly. Bianca's gaze swept over Alice's girlfriends, pausing on Li Fei. She sneered. "And let's not forget, you listened to your best friend and trusted colleague when she told you to undermine Ethan. How stupid can you be? You were with Ethan for 7 years, but you trusted a stranger over him. Pathetic." Bianca pulled out her phone, opened a video, and tossed it to Alice. "Watch this. See how your best friend played you for a fool." The video started playing and Li Fei's voice filled the air. "Since you and Alice are broken up, can we be together?" Li Fei froze. So did Alice, who stared at the phone in horror. She heard every word. Li Fei's confession, her insults about Alice. When the video ended, Alice turned to Li Fei, her eyes blazing. Li Fei closed her eyes, giving up. "Yes, I like Ethan, so what?" Alice lunged at her, slapping her hard. "How dare you? Ethan was mine. But you broke up," Li Fei snapped, finally standing up to her. "You two are over. Why can't I confess?" Alice's face turned white with rage. She tried to hit Li Fei again, but Mark held her back. "Alice, calm down." "How can I calm down?" Alice screamed. "I trusted her with everything, and she tried to steal my boyfriend." "Li Fei, you're fired. Effective immediately." I'd had enough of their petty catfight. I took Bianca's hand and walked away. My colleagues had already left, knowing better than to stay. We walked in silence for a while. Then I turned to Bianca. "How did you know about everything? About me being sidelined at Rue Shui, about Alice and Mark. How did you know so much?" Bianca, usually so straightforward, fidgeted. She couldn't meet my eyes. Her ears turned pink under my gaze. You already guessed, didn't you? Do I have to say it?" She pushed me away, storming ahead. "Forget it." I stood there, watching her back, and couldn't help but smile. When she'd stood up for me, listing all the wrongs I'd endured, I'd figured it out. I ran to catch up with her. "Wait for me, Fiang Fei." Someone who cared enough to protect me, carefully, quietly. I'd be an idiot to pretend I didn't notice. After dropping Bianca off, I found Alice and Mark waiting for me outside my rental apartment. Alice was crying. Mark, for once, wasn't comforting her. When he saw me, Mark looked up. His usual arrogance gone. His eyes were bloodshot. Alice insisted on coming. "Ethan, I'll give her back to you. I lose." What kind of drama were they putting on? I rubbed my temples, then grabbed Mark, who was about to leave. "Take her, get her out of here, now." Alice looked up, her tears falling harder. "Ethan, it's my fault. Li Fei lied to me. She manipulated us. Don't break up with me, please. I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you. I'll give you shares in Rue Shui. You can be CTO and co-founder again. Just don't be with her." "No," I said. "Alice, stop blaming others. Admit it, our relationship was already over. Otherwise, Li Fei never could have turned you against me." Alice bit her lip, staring at me through tears. In the 2 years I'd been sidelined, I'd asked myself this question 1,000 times. Finally, I'd accepted the truth. Alice didn't love me like she used to. We'd hit the 7-year itch. The passionate love we'd had in our youth had faded, worn down by reality. Between us were not just disagreements, but conflicting values, her father's pressure, and everyone around us doubting us. And maybe, over those 2 years, my love for her had faded too. That's why I'd been able to let go so easily. "You're just not used to being without me." I said, "Let's part on good terms." Alice refused to accept it. That night, I told her everything right in front of Mark, but she still wouldn't listen. She was convinced Bianca was just a tool to make her jealous. For weeks, Alice showed up at my apartment every day. "Ethan, I know you just want me to pay more attention to you. I get it now. I know how hurt you were when I spent time with Mark. I'm sorry. I'm paying for it now. Please don't give up on me." I was tired of it. Her constant pestering made it impossible to pursue Bianca openly. "I have someone I like now," I told her. "I want to start a new life." I said we should part on good terms. "If you keep this up, I helped build Rue Shui. No one knows the company better than I do. I could easily team up with your competitors." Alice's face twisted with indecision. The company still mattered more to her. After my threat, she stopped showing up. But she still sent me texts. Then, Rue Shui ran into trouble. Li Fei, angry about being fired, had stolen confidential company data. She'd had access to it as Alice's right-hand woman, and sold it to competitors. Several of Rue Shui's projects collapsed. As CEO, Alice was swamped trying to fix the mess. Mark stayed by her side, pouring money and resources into the company to keep it afloat. Rue Shui survived, but it was a shadow of its former self. Revenue plummeted, and investors slashed its valuation. To make matters worse, Alice's obsession with smart home products had backfired. She'd been too late to the market. Fierce competition had pushed Rue Shui out. Soon, the company dropped off the list of up-and-coming tech firms. Even with Mark's money, Rue Shui's finances were in shambles. When George found out, he yelled at Alice, ordering her to shut down the company and get married. In the end, Alice agreed to marry Mark the night before they got their marriage license. She sent me a long text pages of her thoughts and regrets. Ethan, I've been thinking a lot lately. If I hadn't been so stubborn, if I'd listened to you about the company, would Rushui still be here? Would we still be together? Like we promised. I didn't reply, I just blocked her number. Later, I finally won Bianca over, and as she'd promised, I got to shine at Yunchuan Tech. Under our joint leadership, Yunchuan grew into an industry leader. Rushui Tech, meanwhile, went bankrupt. It was merged into one of Mark's companies. Alice never fulfilled her promise to build something of her own and make George proud. Instead, she stepped back from the business world, turning into the kind of person she'd once hated, Mark's full-time wife. 3 years later, I accompanied Bianca, now my wife, to a business forum titled Woman in Power. She was a guest speaker, there to share her entrepreneurial journey and inspire other working women. At the post-forum dinner, I saw Mark. He was mingling with guests, wine glass in hand, looking ambitious and confident. Alice was with the wives' circle, chatting about gossip and kids. She'd gained weight, looking older than her years. The determination and fire that had once defined her were gone, replaced by forced smiles and flattery. I later heard that George had written a will, leaving Alice less than 10% of his assets. The rest went to Oliver. Alice had thrown a fit, yelling at George until he'd had a stroke. He was still in the hospital, paralyzed. Oliver had taken over the family business, and before long, he'd taken that 10% from Alice too. She had no one left to rely on except Mark. But Mark, it seemed, had also hit his own 7-year itch. Rumors said he had other women in his life. Bianca noticed me watching Alice. She leaned in, whispering, "I heard she's been busy fighting off Mark's mistresses. Her life's a mess. You happy with how things turned out?" "What are you thinking about?" I smiled, brushing her hair back. "They're all in the past. I don't care. The only thing that matters is us making the most of our life now." Bianca smiled, leaning into my side. The past was gone, and for the first time in years, I was excited about the future.